Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for joining me today for another one of our financial literacy webinars. This time it's graduating on a budget. I am your host and presenter for today. My name, just saw your chat. You're very welcome. I'm your host and presenter for today. My name is Lupe Tinoco Oliveros. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the Programming Graduate Assistant at Tuffy's Basic Needs. And just as FYI, this is being recorded and it will be posted on our Tuffy's Basic Needs website and YouTube channel. On there, you can also find all of our previous webinar recordings. And if you want to keep your cameras and mics off, that is totally okay. Feel free to use the chat to submit questions or comments. I'll be checking that at the end as I'm not a great multitasker. But I will address your questions at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so in this presentation, we're gonna cover the very first step, which is graduation check and what that entails. Next, budgeting and prioritizing for graduation. Then we'll jump into a breakdown of expenses and then end with other considerations for your budget. So the first order of business is graduation check. Now it's advised that you apply 1 year in advance of your anticipated graduation term. So this gives you time to correct or fix anything that needs to be corrected on your Titan degree audit. Titan degree audit is the document used for your official graduation check but this is only for undergraduate students. Grad students have a different process. So if you are an undergraduate student, I suggest checking your TDA consistently and reviewing it for accuracy. If there are any inaccuracies in there, for example, let's say you have a major class that you were exempted from taking, but you see on your TDA that it's still requiring you to take it, right? Then reach out to your major or minor emphasis academic departments. If you see something that's off about any of your GE courses or GE requirements, reach out to the Academic Advising Center so they can help you figure that out. And so once you've confirmed your expected graduation date, right, and you verified all the things on your TDA look correct and accurate, you can apply for graduation on your Titan Online Student Center. When you apply for graduation, you are not required to pay the $115 graduation fee. However, you will be required to pay the fee before you become a candidate for graduation. If you don't pay at the time of when you're applying, a graduation fee required is going to appear on your student center to remind you that you have to pay that fee. And that fee is, as far to my knowledge, non-negotiable. You have to pay that fee in order to be a candidate for graduation. So if you have any additional questions about applying for graduation, I suggest you reach out to the grad unit at Fullerton EDU or check out the records and registration and records website that outlines the process for how to go through graduation check. Nope, my bad. All right, so graduation can be one of those celebrations that can be a little bit costly, but there are ways to save money and have a budget-friendly graduation that is still special and memorable, even if you are not able to purchase everything that there is to offer, right? The best way to do this is to create a budget for graduation, as you would with any large expense or purchase. Along those same lines, reflect and identify what are going to be the things that are going to be most important for you and your loved ones to remember this event 5 to 10 years from now, right? Is it your support system watching you walk across the stage, even if it is virtually, right? Is it making sure that you have professional photos that maybe your loved ones can be a part of? Is it purchasing a diploma frame that you can hang on your future office or display in your parents' or family's home? Right? So be thinking about these questions as we go through this presentation today. Now, there is no doubt that commencement will look different for the class of 2021 than it did for previous classes, but this should help inform how you are going to build your graduation budget. As of now, we know that on June 11th, there will be an all virtual university commencement, and virtual college ceremonies. So all university ceremony will include speeches from campus leaders, and they will go ahead and confer the degrees. And then there will be individual or more specific college graduations that are going to be hosted virtually, depending on your college. There's also an option for in-person graduate-only commencement, pending local health guidelines and conditions, of course, where grads are going to be able to cross the stage with their academic departments, and the event will be recorded live for friends and families to view. Now, you have the option to partake in some part in all of these events or none of these events, right? Like I mentioned in the previous slide, reflect on what is going to be the most meaningful for you and for your family when it comes to participating or not in commencement. So for example, let's say that you are a grad student and for undergrad, you didn't participate in commencement for X reason. But now, right, you're getting your master's and you really want to walk the stage. There are some things that come in with that. So for example, you are required to have a cap, tassel, and gown if you're going to walk across the stage. On the other hand, let's say that you are not participating because maybe you and your family don't feel comfortable with that option, then you wouldn't need to purchase a gown if you didn't want to buy a gown. So whatever your option is going to be, it's going to inform how you build your budget. And I think it was just yesterday when new information about registration and ceremony schedules went out. So you can go ahead and visit the website or the commencement website to learn more about all the new information that they have regarding commencement. So what are some common expenses that you should include in your graduation budget? Now here I kind of developed a list, brief list of some of those expenses, right? Your gown, your cap, and your tassel, as I mentioned, all of which are required for the in-person ceremony. Sashes and cords, cap decorations, photos, diplomas, announcements, as you can see, and there are also additional expenses that I may not have listed here, but are graduation related. This will all depend on, right, how you decide to celebrate. But when it comes to graduation, if you find yourself in a spot where you need to budget because let's say you did the math and you saw that you maybe only have like $200 to spend, right? That doesn't mean that you still can't have a meaningful celebration. As I mentioned, and as I'll keep mentioning throughout this presentation, right? Make sure that you invest in the pieces that are going to be the most important and meaningful to you. Now, I just want to give a quick shout out to Grad Fest, which is happening this week, actually, as I speak right now. You can still join today and tomorrow if you have any questions about the items on this that I'm going to be presenting in this workshop that are sold through Titan shops. So for example, regalia, announcements, diplomas, rings, their return policies, things like that. You can go to Grad Fest and ask those questions. It's happening from 11 to 7 p.m. and you can register on the link there, which I will add to the chat at the end of the presentation. All right, so let's go ahead and break down these expenses a little bit more, beginning with the Grad Look, right? So you can purchase a bachelor's regalia set, which goes for $100, or you can purchase those things individually. If you want to purchase everything in the set, you do save about $13 by buying the set rather than if you bought everything individually. But let's use a previous example and say that you know you're not going to be participating in an in-person ceremony, right? If you buy everything but the gown, it comes out to about $79. So you would save about $20 by not buying the gown. For master's students, if you want to participate in the in-person ceremony, the gown, the cap, the tassel, and the hood are all required. So those would be purchases that you would need. But the same concept applies here. Now, let's say that you purchased the cap, gown, and tassel because you were planning on walking, but after thinking about it, maybe you changed your mind. Titan Shops is going to be accepting refunds up until the start of graduation. So any items that you give back or that you want to return, you can. They have to come in the original packaging and they have to be unopened and unworn. So. But with that, now you can allocate those funds for something else, right? Other aspects of the grad look include sashes and cords. So cultural stoles, like you see in the image here, are an additional expense. If you are on a tight budget, some alternate options are doing the cultural sashes yourself and trying to match them as closely as the ones that are being offered by the campus, or buying them from outside vendors. Those are things that I have seen grads do. Also, for program specific, program specific sashes, club sashes, or sashes from a fraternity or sorority, right? Those, just to keep in mind that they may have an additional expense, also goes for cords. Most of the time, these sashes are from programs or organizations that you invested time and energy into. So alternatives for these options are low, or probably non-existent. So if there are a necessary expense for you, right, make sure that you take that into account on your budget, that these are non-negotiables. You really want to have that cultural sash. You really want to have that sorority sash. So make sure that you include that in your budget. The graduation outfit is another part of the look, right? If you're planning on purchasing a new outfit, right, consider using or buying an outfit that you see yourself wearing multiple times so that you can maximize its wear. Or consider using an outfit or clothing items that you already have. If you're anything like me and have been wearing PJs and sweats for the last year and a half, it might be time to look in storage boxes or go to the back of the closet to find clothing items. Or if you decide to do, also one thing to consider is that if you did decide to walk in the in-person graduation, you will be asked to zip up your gown. So you might not have the opportunity to display your outfit in the way that you would like during that ceremony. So those are just some things to consider. Now let's talk about cab decorations, which you might not think it's an expense, but it definitely can be. So take advantage of sales and coupons to lower the cost. If you need to purchase craft supplies, I would suggest giving yourself a budget for new craft supplies because it's very easy to want to buy the whole store. At least that's my experience. Also, consider splitting the cost of supplies with friends. Most likely, right, you won't be using a pack of 100 like SpongeBob stickers on your cap unless that's the look that you're going for. So splitting the supplies and costs with friends can help lower the overall cost, rather if you were just buying it for yourself. Also break out the crafting supplies you already have. A lot of my friends got very crafty over the pandemic season, so maybe you already have some crafting supplies that you've been collecting. You can also ask friends or family if they have crafting supplies that they can give you. Or consider using Canva or other free design programs to help you kind of design, and then all you just have to do is print the design and glue it onto your cap. Those are just some options of how you can save money with decorating your caps. All right, so announcements and invitations are commonly used for exactly that, right? To announce and invite people to your commencement ceremonies or celebrations. So one of the pros about purchasing announcements is that they have the university seal and color. They're printed on nice paper and you have some customizing options, right? The look is very professional and official. Now, the price, of course, is going to depend on how many people you want to invite. And you can see the prices there on the screen. Those are the prices from Titan Shops. Or you can also purchase invitations that include pictures from outside vendors, but those might be a little bit more costly. So if announcements are in your, if you really want announcements and invitations, but you have a tight budget, what are some budget-friendly alternatives? Well, you can create announcements or invitation on Canva or other design tools, right? And you would probably just have to pay for printing. You could use social media and email to invite friends and family. Or you can make calls to people that you want to invite and follow up with the links to the virtual ceremonies, right? There's nothing more personable than a phone call. So that is another option that you can do or you can take. Now let's take a previous example and say that you're going to walk, but let's say you changed your mind and you got a refund on your gown, which is $34 back, right? At the same time, you really wanted some announcements and you wanted to go all out with decorating your cap, but you had to set those aside for your gown. Well, now that you got a refund on your gown, you can use that money to purchase announcements, or maybe you decide to create your own on Canva and just pay for the printing, which let's say comes out to about $10, which leaves you with some money to buy crafting supplies for your cap, right? As with any budget, right, your budget for graduation should be flexible and adjustable. If you have something there and then you change your mind, or perhaps something ends up costing more than you initially anticipated it to cost, that is okay, right? Give yourself some flexibility and some grace for adjusting your budgets in the way that it needs to be adjusted. And yeah. Let me take a sip of water. All right. So next, let's talk about diploma frames. So diploma frames can have one of the highest costs when it comes to graduation items. However, a good quality diploma frame can help protect your diploma from the wear and tear of time and light. And aesthetically, they are very nice to look at and display in your home, your family's home, or in your office. So if you do decide to purchase a diploma frame, the ones sold by CSUF associated vendors can range from $140 to $240. However, let's say that you only have $200 to spend on graduation and you want to buy the whole regalia package and you want to buy a diploma frame. However, with that, right, you're going to go over budget because the regalia is about $100, the frame is about $140. So alternatively, you can purchase frames that are outside of CSUF, which are most cost friendly. It could range anywhere from $15 to $100, depending on where you get it from. The downside of that is that they won't have the official like gold CSUF seals and medallions on them, and probably won't have those additional like glass protection that would protect your diploma. Or you can also decide, maybe this is an item that I want to save money for, right? Maybe you don't have it in your budget at the moment to buy a diploma frame, but you can always come back and purchase the frame at Titan shops later on. So that is also another option. Very similar with class rings, as I was talking about with the diplomas. Class rings are one of the most costly items for graduation, right? Prices can go from $400 to $700 if you purchase them from CSUF associated vendors. If a class ring is really important to you, let's say it's part of a family tradition, then make sure that you budget accordingly so you can make all the payments on time. Alternatively, you can also purchase a class ring from non-CSUF associated vendors that may be more budget friendly, or perhaps you can wait, save up money, and then purchase it at a later time. Now to graduation photos. So first thing to ask yourself is it within your budget to get professional photos? Now, if the answer is yes, and you are on the market for professional photography, here are some things that you can look at to help you save some money. So one is shop around for photographers, right? Review their portfolio and compare their prices. Don't just go with the first one that you find, because there may be more affordable options out there. Make sure also that you let them know what your budget is from the very beginning. Give them a range so that they know your financial boundaries. Also confirm how many photos you'll be receiving, or what exactly is included in the budget, so that you are more able to compare and contrast between the photographers that you're comparing. And book in advance. The best deals are often the ones that are the first to go. So make sure that you give yourself time to plan and research, contact photographers and compare prices so that you are getting the best deal. Now, alternative places to look for a photographer, ask your networks, right? Maybe a friend of a friend graduated in photography last year and they're trying to build a portfolio, so they can offer you a discount rate for for that, and also for being a friend of a friend, right? Or you could ask families and friends that you trust. And by that, I mean friends and family that you trust will get your best angles, right? Because you want to look good in these photos. So perhaps you have somebody that you know that takes great like portraits or photos. So you might want to ask them. If you find that it is not within your budget to take professional photos, right, you can also utilize your phone. The latest cell phone models have special features and tools to help you take the best photos. There are a lot of YouTube videos on how to take the best photos with the type of phone that you have, whether that be Android or iPhone. So it will take a little bit of a learning curve, but it is definitely the most cost-efficient option. If you don't happen to have one of the latest cameras or phones, you can also ask families or friends if they have camera or a phone that you can borrow, of course, with taking all the safety precautions necessary. All right, so I just talked about expenses that you should consider for your graduation budget, and how you can offset some of the costs to make it a bit more budget friendly. Now, as you build your budget for graduation, it's good to keep in mind that it's a component of your overall life budget, right? As you create your graduation budget, think about how it fits in with your life budget. For example, let's say that you plan to spend $400 on graduation, but when you check your monthly budget, you see that now you don't have enough money to pay a bill, right? That's what we don't want happening. So just make sure that as you're punching in the numbers, you are able to balance your budget. Look at your variable expenses, look at your fixed expenses. What can you adjust? What can you move around? So that you don't come up short. If you want to reference how to budget and want more information on balancing your fixed expenses and your variable expenses, I suggest checking out our Budgeting 101 webinar, which is on our YouTube channel. And another thing to consider is life after graduation expenses, right? Graduation is a time of joy and celebration, but on the flip side, there's the question of now what? So maybe you need to find a job, right? And you're gonna have to invest in some interview outfits. Or perhaps you have a job lined up after graduation, but you're gonna have to move, let's say, to Oregon at the end of June. And so you have to cover moving costs, right? Whatever it is, with budgeting in general, right, you want to anticipate or plan for any upcoming costs so that they don't catch you off guard. Sometimes things happen that we can't anticipate, of course, but if you are able to plan for things that you know are coming up, I definitely suggest doing that. And last thing is congratulations to the class of 2021. Soon you are going to be joining the ranks of CSUF alums, and this is a big accomplishment, right? You deserve to have a graduation experience that is special and memorable for you, your friends, your families, because you've worked hard on it. So if you take anything away from this presentation, is that, right, because of the pandemic and the circumstances that we are in, this year's commencement options are different because the ceremony looks different. This does require you to take some time to really think about how you want to celebrate your achievements, but it shouldn't take away from the significance of the event, which is that you finish this degree, right? Also, create a budget for graduation, right? Your budget should be informed by the commencement options that you have, what's going to be the most meaningful for you and your family, and also your overall financial picture. And also, a tip that I want to suggest to you that I wish I would have known it or I would have done is to take time to sit down and identify what's truly important for you. Also, if you value the input of your support system, right? Schedule time or make some time to get their opinions about what would also be meaningful for them. As a grad myself, I'm also graduating in May. I often think like, what time? But put it on your calendars if you need to, and make sure that you honor that time so that when May and finals come around, which is right around the corner, right? You can focus on finishing those last papers and projects rather than graduation planning, which can be quite daunting. So make sure that you try to get ahead of the game. And so with that, we are at the end of the presentation. I just want to thank everybody for joining today. Feel free to email me or Tuffy's Basic Needs if you have any additional questions about our resources and services that we offer. And just reminder, this was recorded and it will be uploaded onto our website and YouTube channel in the coming days. And thank you everybody for joining. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.